one thing that I really like to do, as you guys know, is play with two different chords going back and forth. One that I've been playing with recently is just like it's kind of Mixolydian. It's just like G going to F, right? But you can make it, of course, major 7th chord. You could also substitute the G major for E minor and the F major for D minor, which is always nice. So I could go. Make a Lydian if you want. So the scales would be, of course, and the same thing, which becomes Dorian. But anyway, but yeah, so. If you make little mistakes, you know, don't make it a big deal. And sometimes too, you'll notice, like if I'm playing with a band, I'll try and keep the, you know, in this case 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, you know. Like I'll try to be pretty consistent about it, but if I'm just improvising and messing around myself, I kind of let weird rhythmic stuff happen sometimes, because that can eventually turn into like an actual kind of rhythmic idea. Things get a little wonky, which can be fun. But anyway, let's try something slower. Focus too on particular like notes, like for example the note E. You know, it has a different sound. You know? Obviously you don't want to do it too much because then it gets annoying, but it really helps you kind of get familiar with the different tones and how you can mess with them. So it's not just like a big giant board of nothingness, but you have specific tastes and vibes that you can mess with. Maybe if you do something like if I find like a little motive, like if you mess around with taking those little, like I did a tune earlier, so like the way I was thinking about that, it's, you know, it follows a lot of similar structures that we've talked about before, like sentence structure. Little a, and then, you know, and then kind of a deviation from that. That becomes a little A for a big giant period structure, so we do it again. And then I use the same motive but put it up and use different kind of oh, what's his name? Hermeto Pasquale, I think. Which is kind of weird. It's sort of like melodic minor, you know, augmented major 7, then going to minor major 7, both of which, you know, that's sort of like B flat melodic minor and then B melodic minor, just different modes, and that kind of gives it a bit of a flavor change because we've been in the Greek modes, and so you can kind of think about these different levels of abstraction. Anyway, you know, gives it more of a rhythmic flavor. And you notice too there, I kind of threw in video game cadence. You know, it's fun. Too, like, I can't just sit down and be like, that's not how my brain works, you know, and I don't think it's a healthy, because I don't know, if you practice little licks and stuff like that, then you find that if you want to do something cool, you'll just go play the lick. But I let that stuff flow out, you know. Sometimes I'll fumble around a little bit, and you have to be willing to be inconsistent and human. Otherwise you won't come up with anything interesting. At least I won't come up with anything interesting if I try and, you know, train myself to do stuff like that. But yeah, and obviously certain things help. Like, I have practiced certain, like, this, for example, is, you know, that can work as an upper structure of D minor, but you can also do like this, which kind of makes it a little bit more asymmetrical. It's like a D minor chord with a 9 added, you know, and you can certainly practice. I'm better doing that stuff upward than downward. And you can think about where you're going to land. Like, if I know I'm going to land on the E, I could go to, like, C sharp minor. And I'm thinking about that just in terms of the, like, I just want to go to a minor third of a minor chord, and I also know how far C sharp is away. I know it's down a half, you know, you can see all these kinds of connections when you practice playing with it. But so if I'm doing, and then if you're comfortable playing C sharp Dorian, it's just a matter of getting your fingers to put the specific notes, but there are only 12 keys, right? I'm sorry, Victor Wooten. There are only 12 in terms of, you know, just the Greek modes, or any particular set of modes. There are only 12 notes in the piano as far as equal temperament is concerned. So if you want to become familiar with all of those keys, F sharp and G flat are essentially the same in terms of the fingering, so it's a matter of getting familiar with them. And still having a sense of, like, if I'm in Dorian, you know, or if I'm just playing like a minor chord, right, again, I know, you know, the stable root, the kind of like emotional, clear third, the fifth, which kind of has this, you know, kind of stability and power to it and kind of lords over. And then, you know, I know that, like, every single note on top of a minor chord has a specific vibe to me. And I know a lot of you guys are similar, whether or not you're consciously aware of it or not. But, like, you know, you can think of that as Phrygian, but it's not exclusively Phrygian because it belongs to a bunch of other scales as well. But it has a darkness to it, you know, in the way that it relates to the triad and the scale. That's why it's useful to play on top of pedal tones. But I also know the ninth. It's helpful to sing too. You know, it's like Among Us and Gru's theme, and but also. Kind of, I don't know, it has a kind of like sassy, sinister kind of quality to it, and of course it's course, I really like, because that makes it a major seventh, you know. It's such a specific vibe. Dorian, you know, and then of course major seven, and that could be a part of melodic minor, also harmonic minor, but that, you know, that makes it augmented. It's kind of like mysterious and expansive. And of course, it could resolve to major. You could resolve the chord so that it becomes a major seventh. And I forgot the natural seventh, which is really nice and chill. I really like the way that the 7th and the 11th interact, because it's kind of airy but also very clean. But anyway, but yeah. So if you think about all those and have a feeling of what those are, you don't have to be limited to thinking about particular scales. You can just mess around. If you guys remember, but there's a part of my symphony that's something like you know, and I was thinking about that kind of thing here, you know, kind of Lydian, but then, you know, but it's all in relation to the G. Like, I'm really not complicating in my brain and thinking about, when I'm doing all this crazy stuff, my thinking is very simple. It is very simple and it's very organized, and it always starts with the flavors, right? Your thinking can only be simple if you're so familiar with the flavors of the things that is what guides you. But if you get stuck in intellectual land, A, you're not feeling music, B, you're complicating your brain, and 3, you're becoming disembodied and can't actually do stuff with your physical fingers. To be complicated, but it's also really fun to just, again, be super simple. Like, let's just make simple triads. So that's simple with the harmony, but the melody is more complicated. But even both can be simple. There's, I don't know if you guys know, I don't know if this was Koji Kondo or one of the other great Nintendo's that composer, but there's a something like that. I think that's what it is, and then it goes relationship too, like what's nearby F on the circle of fifths, it's B flat. So even though going from G to F and G to B flat seem different in terms of where they're located spatially, they're pretty similar. So if I go, I could go to F, but a similar melody might work very well because of the similarity on the circle of fifths going to B flat. And it gives it a similar kind of vibe. Anyway, a bunch of different random ideas, and I know a lot of that stuff is, because I'm speaking so quickly, going to kind of maybe take a little bit of listens to watch. But not trying to create a structured video here. I just want to give you a more raw kind of explosion of the way that my brain thinks about this stuff. And again, there are plenty of other musicians who think in this way as well, and I think it's a really useful way to think because it's effortless, it's fun, it's emotional, it's not limiting, and yet at the same time it is very organized. It's not like you're totally flying by the seat of your ear. And it's not like you're completely stuck in theory, but you know, these patterns, it's, again, I think about it, I guess my quote that I'll end off with is a great quote by Marco Pierre White, the chef who trained Gordon Ramsay and famously made him cry. No, I'm just kidding. But he always says, Mother Nature is the artist. Always remember that you're the cook. And I honestly think about that. You know, I didn't invent, like the way that, or just, like the way that makes you feel. I didn't invent that. That existed as a possibility before I was born. But at the same time, you know, first taste the raw ingredients and really become familiar with the flavors. And then as a cook, you can feel totally free to mix them together. But, you know, don't just start with the recipe. Even if it's your own recipe, you know, there's a quote, I think, by Pablo Picasso: success is dangerous. One begins to copy oneself, and to copy oneself is more dangerous than to copy others. It leads to sterility, right? So have fun.